So, after rewatching WandaVision for the third time, I came to 3 conclusions. 1. Wanda could literally beat anybody in the MCU in a one-on-one fight. 2. CGI magic battles are much better when the Russo bros direct them. And 3. The resurrection of a superhero's dead boyfriend is dealt with much better here than in Wonder Woman 1984.
You think you could back that up?
And I know what people are gonna say. Oh, you're just comparing these two because they're both female superhero movies. You're so sexist. Yes, that's exactly right. Because that's how studio executives look at them when they're deciding what they want to make going forward. Not about the essence of the story or characters or anything stupid like that. You hit the nail right on the head. But in all seriousness, they're both superhero movies where the main hero is overcome with grief about her dead ex, and when she gets the ability to bring him back, she lets her emotions take over without thinking about the consequences. There's a ton of throwbacks to bygone eras of pop culture, and everyone in the world around her's lives are ruined by this magical ability, so at the end the boyfriend has to sacrifice himself yet again for the greater good. And there's a jealous villain who has like the same powers as our main heroine, but is like super jealous that our hero is better than her in every way. Alright, is that enough? Or should I mention the other male corporate type villain who really gets no satisfying ending at the conclusion of the film/TV show?
Okay, that's enough.
Below the surface, these movies deal with very similar ideas, but I think the execution of WandaVision is vastly superior to that of Wonder Woman 1984 in terms of how it deals with themes like grief and consequences and how obsessing over our past mistakes can lead us to self-destruction, and exploring those ideas through the resurrection of a deceased former love interest. WandaVision, while not perfect, is kind of masterful in dealing with these ideas and themes, whereas Wonder Woman 1984 barely even touches upon them, using Steve Trevor mainly for bad jokes and plot convenience, which left me feeling unsatisfied and hollow and overall extremely disappointed.
Girl, you got me down.
Also, spoilers for these, obviously. So the basic premises. This is what they're about. Wanda creates a pocket reality in a town where she can live an idyllic life with her dead boyfriend Vision, and relive some of the glory days of sitcoms past while suppressing her grief that's piled on in her life.
My fiance was just helping me with some honeymoon destinations.
Right. We're getting married.
Congratulations. Where are you guys thinking about going?
New Jersey.
Eventually, she realizes what she's doing is wrong and is forced to turn the town back to normal and fight off another witch who wants to abuse her power, giving up Vision once again as well as her 2 children.
Government came and took my baby!
Wonder Woman 1984 is about Diana, now living in the 1980s, guess what year exactly, working in a museum while missing her old beau Steve. Then a rock comes along that grants anyone their greatest desire, but at a cost, and she brings back Steve. The Rock also gives her friend evil superpowers and gives a businessman the ultimate power in the world to grant wishes and take what he wants. Eventually, she learns she has to give up Steve in order to get her powers back and save the world from destroying itself. Both of these heroes are experiencing grief, loss, yearning for something they feel they only got a glimmer of and suddenly it was gone. And so, when they get the power to bring it back, they barely even hesitate. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, right? Like so much. Like all the things. Like every single thing.
What do you mean everything?
Look, bringing back a dead character is hard. It's hard to make it believable, impactful, consistent, consequential, meaningful, and make it resonate. And giving credit where it's due, both of these make it fairly believable how these guys are resurrected. Wanda is super powerful, and the Dreamstone brings Steve back because Diana wished for it. It's simple and elegant. I like it. I'm fine with it. They both do a good job.
It's a tie.
But that's about where their equality ends, and where WandaVision has considerable advantage in every other category.
Well, shit, Diana.
First, the biggest aspect of resurrection, the emotional impact. You gotta show how it affects your main character. In WandaVision, you feel Wanda's love for Vision emanating through everything she does in every sitcom era. Wanda has clearly latched on not so much to this fake life she's built through the sitcom, but to Vision himself. And this sitcom is just how she imagines life to be in America once she's married, because as you may recall, she is an immigrant who only lived in America for about a year before becoming a fugitive. And then she died and came back about 30 minutes before this show started. She's hurting, constantly hurting, and the Vision seems to be all there is to alleviate that pain. With Diana, Steve comes back and pretty immediately they've become accustomed to being around each other again, even though he says he was basically in heaven 10 minutes before this.
I know I've been someplace since then, someplace that's, I can't really put words to it, but it's good.
You ruined my fucking life!
They hug when he comes back, and they, have sex that evening, an aspect that I will definitely cover in a bit. Not for a gross creep. Ugh, sorry, that sounded super weird.
I am above average.
Boner.
Gross.
But then for the rest of the movie, he just follows her around as his sidekick. He's mainly a bouncing board for her to spout exposition off of. There aren't really any scenes that show development of their relationship, or how they would adapt to being back in the US together, because they only spent time in Europe during the war. He comes back, he tries on clothes, he looks at art, and then he just becomes another character looking for the Dreamstone. With Wanda, I really feel that passion and love and longing to have him around after witnessing his death. But with Diana, it just feels like she missed him because he was out grocery shopping for a bit. Winds up ringing a little more hollow than I think they wanted it to.
He's great, but all I see is you.
I feel nothing.
The consistency of the worlds these filmmakers are building is pretty vital to their success. With WandaVision, it's pretty simple. Without the Hex, Vision cannot live. Wanda made a spell that ties Vision and her children to the Hex, and one cannot exist without the other. That's pretty clear the entire show. Every time he tries to leave or even thinks of leaving, Wanda wants to stop him.
Come play with us, Daddy.
While he is perfectly real inside the Hex, when it collapses, we're fully aware that these are the last moments of this Vision's existence. In Wonder Woman, it's made perfectly clear that the Dreamstone can create things out of nowhere, like a giant wall or hundreds of nukes. Great wish, by the way, Mr. President.
More nuclear weapons? More than they have.
Yeah, alright. Best president ever. So why in the hell did they think it was a good idea to make Steve take over some random handsome man's body? Maybe, and I'm really trying to help the film here, the Dreamstone can't create life or bring it back or something, and it would take like one line of dialogue to tell us that, but they never do. And they say he can't exactly fly to Egypt. Why? How do you know this dude whose body you took over doesn't have a passport?
My cock's mole.
He's a real guy after all. Everyone sees the real guy, and most adults have them, so what's the deal with that? Also, you knew Steve for a goddamn week 65 years ago.
65.
65.
Wanda dated Vision for years. It's been longer for Wanda since Vision died than the time that Diana and Steve spent together. And Wanda's been back from the snap for less than a month. I'm not saying getting over it right away is easy, but your yearning for Steve is in retirement age, Diana. Was Steve really just that good at, having
Sex.
And why can Steve fly a jet? Jets and single-engine aircraft from the 1910s are pretty damn different. It feels like there's just some huge holes in your logic there, movie.
Is he gonna say giggity? Should I say giggity? Are other people allowed to say giggity?
Just building and leading us to focus less on the movie and more on the questions that we have about the movie. The consequences of bringing these guys back are also wildly different.
Wildly.
Namely, that Wonder Woman faces basically zero consequences for bringing Steve back, aside from losing her powers a little bit, and Wanda is now a supervillain because of it. Yes, in Wonder Woman, the world falls apart because of these wishes, but, this isn't a consequence of her actions at all, but by everyone else's actions being worse than hers, making you kind of forget that what she did was also pretty fucked up.
You done messed up, Aaron!
I mean, she willingly let Steve replace this random stranger who, by all accounts, seemed like a pretty decent guy for the 5 seconds we met him. And she's completely fine just letting Steve live out life in this guy's body forever, essentially ending his life. So you're just cool with having someone be murdered so that your boyfriend can try on parachute pants? Oh, but let's take it a step further. Let's have sex with this guy's body without his permission while Steve is taking over it, essentially sexually assaulting him. But don't worry, it's okay. She's really hot. That makes things fine, right?
No, man.
Can you imagine what it would be like if the genders were flipped? There would be mountains of backlash for something like this so casually implied. And at the end, Wonder Woman sees the guy and they share a casual flirt because he doesn't remember a goddamn thing, but she's done some stuff to him that he has no idea about.
Well, I don't know. It's really messed up.
What lasting repercussions does she face? Zero. What the fuck? She essentially tortured this guy for a week by sending his soul into the sunken place. And we're just supposed to feel bad for her? I'm worried about him, man. She's supposed to be like a paragon of all that is good in the world, maybe even more so than Superman, but this is kind of ruining that image for me. WandaVision goes completely different with this approach. Wanda takes an entire town hostage, mentally tortures them for a month, barely letting them do anything, all because she missed her man. The show is fully aware how fucked up that is. And while it does lean toward understanding how she feels and where she's coming from, it far from vindicates her actions. She's on the run after this, just like she was before the snap. It's not like the town is going to keep this a secret, so they, and maybe even the world, is going to hate her soon. Ill intentions or not.
It doesn't matter what you thought, it matters what you did. It matters what you didn't do.
She's burdened with the guilt of what she did to these people forever, and how her lack of self-control caused innocent lives to be affected. Like, yeah, Agatha Harkness seems kind of worse overall, less caring about life, and the same with Maxwell Lord, but one person's worse actions don't negate another person's also bad actions. Actions have consequences, and I'm glad at least some people understand that. Finally, how meaningful and resonant were these characters? Like,
The question is, what are you teaching them?
Wanda learns about dealing with grief and how letting it take you over can be harmful to not only yourself, but those around you. Letting go and moving on takes time. It's a process, but don't let it consume you, here more physically so than anything. Learn to move on and accept who you are and who you've become. I mean, Vision has that kick-ass line,
But what is grief? If not love, persevering.
First off, one of the best lines I've ever heard. Second, it's a pretty profound lesson about focusing on the time you had together rather than the time you didn't. And your loved ones would want you to be happy and not pining over something that you lost. Wonder Woman deals with similar ideas, but it feels a lot less impactful given the circumstances. First off, Diana doesn't seem to be all that unhappy before Steve comes back. She's got a good job, makes friends easy, everyone is attracted to her on the planet Earth, it seems, and overall she seems pretty happy. Wanda has literally nobody and nothing. She kinda has the Avengers, but every single one that she was even remotely close to is either dead or an old man now.
Are the Avengers even like a thing anymore? Does anyone even have a plan?
And for her, Vision just died a few weeks ago, and then she witnesses Vision's body torn to pieces. But then again, Diana, she saw a plane yesterday, and Steve flew those. So, same thing basically. Wanda just lost the last thing she had in the world. So the moment she brings it back feels so much more desperate than Diana, who understandably misses someone from her past, but it feels like she has more to hold on to than the memory of Steve. He was a great guy, but he's not the only person she's got in her life. Vision also has a character, whereas Steve kinda doesn't. Yeah, he has that classic superhero funny personality, but other than that, you don't really get anything new from him.
We've got to see that dick.
Boner.
In Wonder Woman, he was fleshed out and interesting, and you could feel a history with the character. In 1984, he's just a quirky love interest. I didn't really feel a lot of development there. Seemed pretty clear from the outset he was like, I shouldn't be here, I was happier where I was. Vision has that same kind of classic superhero funny personality a lot of the time, but that's kind of the point. Wanda designed him to be that way, to be the classic funny husband stereotype. She wants him to make jokes, be romantic, love her, and all that good stuff. But we learn he has wants and needs too as he slowly unravels what's going on around him. He's curious, and deep down we see that he wants out of the hex just like everyone else. He does love Wanda, that seems pretty clear, but knows what's happening to people isn't right. He is a hero after all.
A superhero!
Steve knows the same, but it feels like his existence is only to make that point. He's a nice guy who has to die, but he's not a fleshed out character. In 1984, Steve is just there to love Diana, but in WandaVision, he knows he's there just to love her and can't abide by that.
Now that I can't abide.
This all leads up to the impact of their deaths, which hits hard in WandaVision and feels empty in Wonder Woman 1984. We all knew Steve was gonna die, pretty predictable if you ask anyone who's seen a movie. Bringing a character back just to kill him is wholly unsatisfying for an audience member.
Won't that leave me so unsatisfied?
Yes, WandaVision brings Vision back in the show and kills him too, but that was honestly a little more unpredictable. Vision's characterization and conflict made it something more worth seeing. And it seems much more in Wanda's control to save the world here. It all comes down to Wanda. It's her sacrifice of Vision that will save the rest of these people in the town. Steve's death, while it feels hard for Diana, doesn't feel all that heartbreaking because, like, she got a life and she can go anywhere with it.
Yo, you can do anything! Anything's possible! The world is yours! You can actually fly! Listen to my voice! You are immortal!
Plus, we know Steve is going back to heaven. He basically says so I'm not really worried about him. Where's Vision gone? I mean, he's a robot. Does he have a soul? We don't really know. We don't really know anything that could happen to him. And he's just gone forever now.
I create life!
And I destroy.
Same with her boys. Possibly. I mean, that after credit scene means they're totally going to come back. Probably through Mephisto. I don't know. Everyone keeps saying that.
Mephistopheles. I knew you'd come.
It just feels like a harder moment for both characters as they watch their whole world disappear. Compare that to 1984 where it just kind of felt like, well, it happened and then everything went back to the way it was before. Diana still lived the same life, same job, I assume, same home, just a little less hung up on her ex. Whereas Wanda lost everything in one wave of the hex. That's how you show a character has evolved. They don't start and end in the same position. Wonder Woman hasn't really changed, not in any meaningful way. So why did the story have to be told?
Everything is meaningless.
In the end, Steve felt more like a plot device where Vision felt like the whole plot. Vision's resurrection was indicative of the main character's internal struggle, whereas Steve felt more like a bouncing board for the other characters. Both use comedy to tell their stories, but the comedy around Vision is meant to hide the real story going on underneath the surface. But Wonder Woman 1984 doesn't really have something deeper that isn't blatantly spelled out in the opening scene.
You took the short path. You cheated, Diana.
In America today, it's the best lesson a child can learn is if you cheat, you will win.
To make a comparison that I think is rock solid, comparing the two is like comparing Westview Vision with White Vision.
When this guy woke up this morning, he was white.
Westview Vision has a soul, whereas White Vision is just heartless. Could be cool to watch, but ultimately doesn't go any deeper than what's on the surface. A relationship with White Vision would just leave you deeply unsatisfied.
Why are you white? Oh my god, Karen, you can't just ask people why they're white.
Westview Vision will make you feel a sense of fulfillment. It'll make you feel loved. It'll make you feel good on the inside.
Giggity.
What?
Nothing is stupid.
Not in a gross way. He makes you feel like you learned something. So I guess that's my cue to pack up and move to Westview. See ya.
Boner.
And giving credit where it's due, both of these make it fairly believable how these guys erected. I said erected. Friggin' idiot. It's resurrected, not erected. Although they probably got erected eventually, am I right?